What we're going to do here is listen to a presentation on SoundCloud by something called the Weekly Portland Podcast, which was interviewing somebody by the name of Bob Hastings of Trimet. I heard the name, I didn't know the man, never met the man, don't know anything about the man, but apparently he is, I don't know, I guess he's somebody, I guess, because whoever they, quotes around they, tell you is somebody, right? So he's somebody that's worth listening to because they tell us that. And so I'm going to listen to this, and I will comment as the presentation goes forward. We as citizens are always subjected to media that decides for us who we should be listening to and what things we should think. And as somebody who's thinks that they're somewhat of a free thinker, I always wonder about these these are technocrats. I always wonder about these technocrats and who they are and why they make so much money off of us as citizens and why they are so important in the media and why they're foisted upon us as somebody who actually knows, we should listen to them for some reason. Rather than listening to like bus riders or bus drivers, we need to listen to these people. Of course, I reject the notion 100%, but I don't know anything about him really, so I want to hear this, and we will discuss it as it goes forward. So let's start up. Let's see here. Come on.
Shows at Trimet this week. His name is Bob Hastings. He's an agency architect at Trimet. He's worked there for 16 years as the agency architect and is the founder of Oregon by Design. He's not just about the destination, he's about the ride. Respect the ride. Ooh. So I caught up with Bob in his Northwest home. We talked about where Trimet's headed in the future, his legacy, and oh my goodness, we talked about renewable energy too.
Okay, we'll stop right there. His legacy. What do you mean his legacy? What do you mean his legacy? Okay, already it's questionable because they're already putting him in a hero kind of status as if he's any better than any of the rest of us who are out here working on these issues and watching these issues. His legacy. What about my legacy? What about Dan Christensen's legacy? What about the Deacon Blues legacy? What about even Ellen Fox's legacy? What about those legacies? No, we don't get any coverage. Okay, let's continue.
Used, especially on LinkedIn. I mean, everybody's calling themselves a visionary these days. Come on. Okay, is everybody Steve Jobs? I don't think so. All right, enough snark. Let's meet our special guest today on pdxpodcast.com. It's Bob Hastings.
Bob Hastings is from it. Here's the music.
The reason why I'm here today is because Mitsu Yamazaki said that you gave an amazing speech and talked about human infrastructure. Mm-hmm. The phrase, where does that come from? What was the context? What's it all about?
It's kind of an evolution of thinking and an idea, but also the experience of having been with Trimet as their agency architect. I've been at the agency for 16 years and worked on a variety of transit projects going all the way back into the 90s. And seeing how, as we are continuing to build and to design and to work in the city, I think really have become to understand that we're helping to create the city, that it's not...
All right, stop right there. Stop the presses. Yes, that's true. They are helping to create the city, and what they ended up creating, and those of us that have been in Portland for many, many years know what happened in Portland over the last 10 years. Portland became the most gentrified city in the United States, and I'm not making that up. Just Google it. Most gentrified city you will see Portland is the most gentrified city in the United States. And what that means, of course, is that people that don't have money, it's always about the money, but the poor people that don't have money and status were pushed out. And Trimet played a big role in pushing people out of Portland. Of course, we're not going to hear about that from good old Bob. We're going to hear about how wonderful he is, I'm sure. But let's make sure we understand exactly what happened as a result. Not just of Trimet, this is Metro in the city of Portland, created this city that is the most gentrified city in the United States.
Just a conveyance for moving people. The more we do, the more we realize that we're moving community, and we're shaping it, both the bricks and the mortar and the steel, but the awareness that we've been seeing is that we're also shaping how people are connecting with each other. So the idea of the human infrastructure is a parallel to what we say is the sort of civil infrastructure.
Right.
That folks...
It's such a great term. I love the term. It adds a bit of humanity to the steel and nuts and...
I don't have any idea who this moderator is, but you can hear he's kind of like the mainstream kind of guy.
What makes a city run.
And that is the truth.
Yeah.
And that in Portland, we're not a small city, but we're not also a big city. Sarah, in one of your interviews, sort of made reference to the town scale of things,
right.
Meaning that we have the ability to connect with folks on a very personal level. It could be giving tours to visitors from around the world, but also in the work that we do through Trimet, through our transit projects. You talk to citizens, you talk to neighbors, you talk to community activists. And I've been around other parts of the United States, and I've never seen this sort of level of positivity, of wanting to see how things can work, how they can fit together.
My God.
But also the recognition.
Can you believe this? What is he talking? What? You see, this is the thing about Trimet that I really love, is how they ignore every bit of criticism that's ever come their way and only concentrate on what they want. Of course, that's government in general, so let's not just pick on Trimet. Trimet's my laboratory of government. That's my laboratory because I'm most familiar with that. But this is what they do. They only concentrate on their message. All other messages are not acknowledged.
Mission that nobody can do it for you. We have to do it with each other together. And in doing the work, you're also creating additional capacity for people. They're learning things. They're beginning to understand the network. What's the sort of the magic waters that we have in Portland? Why are we doing things here that resonate in other parts of the world? And so
okay, that's a very good question. Why are we doing things here that resonate in other parts of the world? Now, who exactly said things resonate in other parts of the world? I'll tell you who has said that. Those are the technocracies of government that have said that, okay? When you hear Portland is a model for the world, what you're hearing is technocracy speaking, okay? Technocrats talk like that. Now, Portland is indeed a model of the world. Is it a good model for the world? I really have my doubts. The transit-oriented development fad, the Church of Light Rail, all began in Portland. Now, that certainly benefits some people. There's no doubt about it, but there's also a lot of negatives that go along with that. And you're not going to hear it from any of these people.
I talked about the human infrastructure. It was that all folks in this discourse are learning and teaching and sharing, and that's that multiplier effect of ideas coming from all places, from the business leader, small shop owner, the teacher, the people who come to a community meeting because maybe they're afraid that there's something bad that's going to happen, and they really have some very strong concerns. But it's this process, and it's very much about what design is about. Design is where you want to fail rapidly so you can learn and then apply that learning to the next idea that you try out.
Failing quickly. I like that concept. I've definitely done that. Now, I do want to expand a bit more on your contribution to Mr. Yamazaki's book, specifically the functions of the city that have been changed by public transit.
The initial idea, when I first got engaged with this back in the 90s, the architect was the one who was commissioned to create the vision, create the design, present it to the public, and they will like it.
Well, there you go. Did you just hear what he said? Did you just hear what he said? He's going to create the vision. He's going to create the design. And the public will like it. You hear that? That is a technocrat talking to you. And a technocrat does not live in the same world as the rest of us. They are making six-figure salaries from taxpayer funds. And they are creating what they want. Their visions are becoming reality because there's nobody to stop them. These technocracies are not elected. They are appointed by, in the case of Trimet, they're appointed, I guess, by the governor. I'm not really sure where the credibility comes from in Trimet's case. They have a board of directors appointed by the government. The Trimet board of directors is a puppet board, and anybody that's familiar with the board sees that. There's no discourse. I've never seen the general manager actually voted down. The technocracy of Trimet runs Trimet. They own Trimet. They create Trimet. They are Trimet, and the rest of us follow.
It didn't work. We found that people either didn't understand, or maybe the way that we were communicating was not connecting their understanding and speaking in a way that really would make them appreciate what the issue was and then why the solution might have veracity. We finally got down to this recent project that just opened up in September 12th of 2015, the Orange Line.
Yeah.
And
big hit.
It was a big hit because it wasn't that
it was a big hit.
The outcome was the thing. It was the process that got us to the outcome.
Christ.
And it was this. In 2010, there was real anger. There was deep-seated suspicions. Clackamas County, some folks were calling it the crime train that was going to be coming into the bucolic Milwaukee City. And there was a lot of, not just trepidation, there was anger. And it was based usually on a fear of change and in a way that people didn't feel connected and in control of that. So as I'm describing this scenario with the folks from Japan, you could tell that they're going, well, that sounds very similar to how we approach things. We are usually told, here's what the solution is, and you will like it. And when the tsunami hit and the Sendai earthquake, and it was a sort of both shock to the country, but also I think shock to their reliance on a hierarchical, non-inclusive, not engaging methodology.
Now, I do want to go back to the Orange Line. It's a hit.
It's
and
a hit.
What was your role in getting this done, getting this out there?
It's a hit? Who says it's a hit? From what I hear, it's not a hit at all.
Help with the sort of oversight of the design, the physical things that end up being built into the project.
Yeah.
We had been advancing this idea of community engagement, and we had been advancing the idea that while there are elements of consistency in transit, there also have to be elements of distinction. And it's the distinction that helps
What are you talking? What?
Clarify what is the neighborhood? Who are they? What are their values? What do they need? What are the points of connection that are very important in both their daily lives, but also in living a civic life in Portland?
Jesus Christ.
So,
I don't want to be a spoilsport, but look, man, that's just such bullshit. Okay, people want transit that is efficient, reliable, and not a mess. They want comfortable, reliable, frequent transit. I don't know what this guy's talking about, but obviously he's talking about it from a technocracy point of view, a technocrat who doesn't know anything about people that are stuck using transit. He's got his little vision, and we're hearing about it here.
We recognize that rather than being kind of engineering, this is going to have to be more like alchemy.
Oh, yeah.
And we hired an artist, Tad Savinar, brilliant thinker, and he created what became called the Possibilities Project. And we looked all up and down the whole project, from downtown Portland all the way to Park Avenue, 7.5 miles at the end. And we didn't dismiss anything that was plausible. We would look and say, well, the project, maybe you could do this, or maybe you connect in this way. Maybe you could anticipate what are going to be the changes in the demographics in the future.
Well, you took all that into consideration.
Yes.
For transit land. It's interesting to hear that.
They took it all into consideration. They took all that. Look, okay, we really don't need to keep going on this, okay, because we already understand. I don't need to hear any more. Okay, this is a vision of technocracy at its finest here, okay? You have a technocrat, six-figure technocrat, talking about transit from his point of view. He is not talking about transit from the transit rider's point of view. He's talking about it from a whole nother point of view. And that point of view might be valid to him and other people who are getting paid. But it's not valid to those of us who are driving transit and those of us who are using transit. And this is a great representation of all of my problems around the public transportation technocracies. One of the great things about my time at Trimet, and I really, I don't discourage anybody from applying at Trimet. It was a profound experience for me, changed my life because it opened up this whole other world, which I was not aware of. And that was the world of public transportation and government public transportation and how it really was. And what I've seen and since leaving Trimet, I've really been able to go crazy with researching all of these topics and blogging once I was gone out of that job, I really went full force into looking at the subject matter. And what you see is you have this class of people, and they're professional public transportation technocrats who have the rest of us by the balls, so to speak. They are making all the decisions for the rest of us. And what you see here with good old Bob is a very perfect example of this. See how he's taken the subject matter and he's turned it into this other thing. Nobody really gives a shit how the transportation works, as long as it works reliably, efficiently, and frequently, and clean. None of those things apply. It's not reliable, it's not efficient, it's not clean, and basically public transportation is a complete and total failure. And that includes Trimet. So these people here trying to make it sound like it's something that it's not. This is a problem I've had from the very beginning. They're making up a story. They're making up this fable about United States public transportation, and there's nobody out there to challenge it. And the one group of people that has challenged it, the Cato Institute, has been pigeonholed into the right-wing lunatic. Oh, if you agree with Cato, you're a right-wing lunatic, and therefore you have no say, and you're just crazy. This is the problem we see, is that there is no contrary argument to the public transportation professionals. It's just their point of view. There is no other point of view. And the one point of view that does exist is put into a pigeonhole, and so they get everything their way, and we're supposed to believe this stuff that Hastings is talking about. Well, I'm not going to listen to anymore because I already know where it's going. It's going nowhere.